Hello, everybody. Welcome back and Happy New Year. First NBA front office show of 2023. I'm Trevor Lane. You can find me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane, joined by Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA. Keith, before we get into hoops, New Year's resolutions. Are you a believer in them and do you have any?
More goals for the
Mhm.
year than resolutions. Like I don't think, for me, I don't know that resolutions work necessarily, and I feel like it is you feel like you failed if you didn't start making progress right away or something. So more goals, but I kind of keep them loose and more high level than anything super specific. And then when I really want something, then that's when I get deep into how I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the same way. I think the people set these, and I'll usually we look at fitness goals. That's the one you always hear about, right? How gym memberships go way up in
Yep.
January and all that kind of stuff. And I always see it as people set these goals that are just they're too big, right? To
Mhm.
be for your mind to stay focused on for long enough, right? You get to a point where you say, "Hey, I'm going to lose 30 pounds in 2 months or something like that," and then within a few days or a few weeks or whatever, you're like, "Oh, this isn't happening."
Yep.
And instead of setting smaller goals and then more importantly, lifestyle changes and habits and all that sort of stuff, once you commit something to habit, it makes it easier. I think people never get to that point. So when they make these New Year's resolutions, it's such a big thing that they go after that they don't set the achievable benchmarks along the way, and
Yep.
that causes people to fail at these things. So I'm not a huge believer either in the whole New Year's resolution thing. I think that ultimately, if you're going to do something, if you really want something, you'll do it, and you'll make those changes whenever, whether it's 2023 or whatever year it is. But nonetheless,
Let me say something real quick, just in
yeah.
case people are interested in this topic, but not from us. One of my best friends in the entire world, he has a podcast called Schooling Struggle Podcast, and it's all about things people struggle with.
Mhm.
And he does it with a good friend of his. They're both fitness guys who do a lot of stuff in the CrossFit world, a lot of like running, training, things like that with that. And one of the things that they talk about in their show a lot is like how you make things achievable versus just
Yes.
setting these massive goals without then finding that progress. So if anybody's really interested in this topic, I highly recommend it. Again, Schooling Struggle Podcast. It's only a podcast, no video version of it, but you can check that out. It's pretty short listens. They're about a half hour or so each at most. So it's really good for if you're in the car or anything like that. And they do a really good job breaking a lot of different topics down on mindset and health and wellness and
Mhm.
beyond just the physical fitness, also mental fitness and things like that. So there it is.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm
Yeah,
gonna have to go check that out. All right.
yeah,
Awesome. Look at that. We haven't even like officially kicked off the show yet, and already I've gained something from this. Awesome. That's
perfect.
fantastic. All right. Let's get into some of our NBA topics for the day. A lot going on around the NBA. By the way, we actually have a game starting up like
Yeah,
momentarily.
in
How
like two
awesome is
minutes.
that?
Yeah, right. I know. I could go for like an afternoon game every day. I
Yeah.
say this now that I'm home to watch them. Ideally, they would start at like 4ish when I'm actually home from school pickup. But I get it. I get why there's not generally daytime NBA games. But it's the holiday observed. So yeah,
Mhm.
Knicks and Suns
There we
going
go.
at it. Both
Well,
fairly healthy ish too.
healthy-ish
Yeah,
minus, a little Devin
Devin
Booker, but
Booker.
but
Yeah.
nonetheless. All right, let's kick things off though with the Houston Rockets. Eric Gordon had some, well, I mean, kind of cranky old man comments on the Houston Rockets, and understandably so. But he wasn't thrilled with the lack of progress. He was asked about the progress the team has made since opening night, and he said there's no improvement. Same old thing all year. We have a small margin for error. It's a lot of things. It's mindset. You've got to play for one another, do what's right by your teammates. If you do that, it'd be more fun. You give yourself a better chance to win. So beyond just the blunt, there's no improvement bit. It sounds like he's saying the guys aren't playing for each other; they're playing for themselves, and that's creating a negative environment. So, what's your take on this comment? And I mean, does this hasten an exit from Houston for Eric Gordon? I mean, I know he's already on the market, but what do the Rockets do with this going forward?
Yeah, I think. The not playing for each other stuff is very typical of a very young team.
Yep.
Eric Gordon is the only veteran really on that roster. They've got a couple other guys who've been around for a little while, like Boban, but he doesn't really ever play. Bruno Fernando's kind of kicked around the league for a little bit, but it's for the most part, it's a bunch of guys that are in their first and second years, or even like Kevin Porter Jr. is in year number 4, but he missed a lot of time early in his career and those kind of things. So very, very young team. And I think that leads to guys are trying to establish themselves. They're trying to find their way in the NBA and those kind of things. And when it's, a whole team full of guys like that, it stands out in a very negative way. And I think for Gordon too, it was a very frustrating game. They had just come off of, I think they had 25 turnovers in that game where he said this after, which if you watch the Rockets, they're a ton of fun because they're going to do a lot of stuff you've probably not seen a lot of, like incredibly athletic plays and great finishes and great passes, and then passes that are going to hit the popcorn vendor in the back of the head in the 8th row of the bleachers, right? Like it's just they're all over the place. So it's I disagree with his sentiment that there's no improvement because there is improvement. You can see guys getting better with stuff, but everything else he's saying is pretty true. And I think as far as does it hasten an exit for him, maybe. I think that I've been saying for weeks now. I think this is finally the year he's on essentially a pseudo expiring contract and only becomes guaranteed if whatever team he's on wins the championship. And in that case, you're like, great, we won the title. We're happy to pay you full amount. But yeah, well, we'll see where it goes. But my guess is that this has nothing to do with that. If he's getting traded, it's happening one way or the other.
Yeah. I'm sure. To me, it's not so much whether or not he gets traded. It's how welcoming he would feel about a trade. It sounds like he would not mind being somewhere else where maybe he's around some more veteran players and the vibe is a little bit different. And that's to be understood. But he's the veteran on this squad, and he's got a bunch of kids around him. And let's face it, even in a professional setting, that can still get frustrating after a little while. Sometimes you feel like you're speaking a different language, even though we're talking about guys who are, there's only a 10-year age gap, but go hang out with a group of people that are 10 years younger than you tend to notice, right? It's just the way it goes. So
without looking it up, what year in the league do you think Eric Gordon's in?
Oh gosh. I mean, he was initially in that Chris Paul. Is he in year like 13 or something like that? 15. Okay.
Yeah,
I knew it was
threw me off a little bit. I was thinking 12, 13 too. And when I was looking at it the other day, I was like, wow, year 15 for Eric Gordon. It's funny because he's one of those guys. Remember, he was hurt all the time.
Yep.
Early in his career. I was like, this guy's never going to even make it to 7-8 years in the league, and here he is in year 15. So yeah, I'm with you. I think for him, he's probably ready to win again and compete for more than just development time for guys,
particularly with his next contract potentially on the line, unless he goes to the team that wins the championship. So that matters too.
Yep.
All right, let's jump over to this. Zach Lowe said the Cavs are going to pursue a wing. Now, this isn't like groundbreaking stuff here. Like, we know they've been in discussions trying to land Jay Crowder from the Phoenix Suns, but it makes sense, right? Now, there's a lot of teams that are going to be after wings. In fact, basically every team in the NBA, if you said, hey, what could you use more of? They would say 3-and-D wings, right? I mean, that's so.
For so long, it used to be like guard depth, like a combo scoring guard. Now it's like, another wing, like that. That'd be good.
So, are you telling me it's not a guards league?
I think it still is. I just don't. I think everybody still is flush with them right now for the most part. I think this. I honestly, without getting super deep into this off the rails topic here, I do think this is the deepest we've ever been in like quality guards in the league. Like, if there's just so much guard talent all over the place, and more teams I think now are playing 2 primary ball handlers, where in like when we started watching the game, those guys would have been put into a point guard role. That's it. That's what you are. And you would have been a backup. Now it's like, hey, we'll play 2 point guards together as long as we can put together enough defense around it.
Well, and that's why the wings are so important. And part is
Mhm.
because if you're going to have a smaller backcourt, which we're seeing teams trend towards, it means you really have to have that size on the wings in order to help make up for it, help you on the boards and all of that sort of stuff. But the Cavs are going to be looking at wing play. What pieces do they move in order to
Yeah.
get that? What do you see happening there?
Yeah, I don't know. That's where it gets really
Yeah.
tough, right? Because most of their tradable, like big money contracts belong to guys they want or need on the roster, right? You're not moving Jared Allen, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell.
Hmm.
None of those guys are going anywhere. You're probably not moving Kevin Love because you don't want to weaken your front court after what really sunk them last year. And so, Mobley's obviously going to be off the table in any kind of deal. So that looks to me like, could they remove Karis LeVert and his
Right.
18.8 million? Yeah, sure. Right. That could maybe get you something there. You're going to get Ricky Rubio back here fairly soon. It sounds like probably sometime later this month. So now your guard rotation is pretty well set with Rubio, Mitchell, and Garland. So I really do. Yeah. I kind of wonder, could you remove Rubio or Levert? Could you move Okoro and Osman? Could you package them together?
Hmm.
That's about almost 15 million in salary to go get something. You got Dylan Windler sitting out there 4 million, just completely dead money because he just can't get healthy. So yeah, they've got ways to get there. They've also got an open roster spot. So I'm wondering if this is more of a hey, if somebody really late in the game, trade deadline week is looking to move someone, yeah, we can get involved then. I just don't
Hmm.
know that it's going to be any kind of star wing coming in there to Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, if you package Osman and Okoro or something like, okay, that's wing depth essentially, and Okoro is
Yeah.
younger, still just 21 years old, but
He's been playing well lately, better
yeah,
in the last few weeks than he
and
had been.
at the same time, like we talk about, well, these guys, they might not be the answer that you necessarily want, right? They're not. If the Cavs see themselves as, hey, we're a team that has a real shot to come out of the East, you probably want a little bit higher quality in terms of wing play
Yeah.
than what like Cedi Osman is giving. Not that they're terrible players, but
Yep.
these are guys that will hold interest to other teams. But are they going to give up that next tier player in order to get those two guys? Probably not,
Yeah.
right?
And
So
that's
that's where it
yeah,
gets tricky.
exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. That this is where it's difficult in the process. Could they go get like an Alec Burks? Sure. But is Alec Burks like how much is he going to lift your
Right.
team above where you are today in the grand scheme of things like that? That's a guy you could probably go get from Detroit. I imagine teams are calling all over looking for guys like him because what you're starting to do now is all right, who's out of it, right? Like who's maybe looking to sell guys off
Hmm.
and move guys. Josh Richardson, maybe, right? That could maybe be interesting, but more of a guard than a bigger wing. That would also look at a guy like maybe Doug McDermott, but that's kind of shooting only, which that's not bad. I think he could play a role and maybe help Cleveland. I do wonder if with Levert, with Rubio coming back, with Mitchell and Garland, are you more likely to move on from a Karis LeVert saying, we've got our ball handling, playmaking,
Hmm.
and scoring covered? We don't need him for that. Whereas last year, they really did, right? It was Darius Garland for a long time
Was
after
it?
Rubio got hurt, was the only guy who could create a look for people. So it was like, we needed to get another guy. Now you've got that role really covered. So I really do start to wonder if it's like, yeah, it
Hmm.
sacrifices. It'd be wing for wing, but could you get a wing that fits a little bit better? And you put him together with like a Dylan Windler. Now we're up over 20 million, and you're kind of in the ballpark for just about anybody who comes available.
Is Jay Crowder the right guy to go get? I know
Yeah,
he's a wing and he's on the market, but I kind of question whether or not he's really the guy that they need.
yeah. I don't know. That one's a little odd. If he shot it better,
Right.
I would feel a lot better about it. But then so would 29 teams that aren't the Suns,
The
right?
Suns probably wouldn't even have him at home if
Exactly, right. Yeah, probably still be in the starting group, and
yeah.
none of this would be even a conversation. So, yeah, I think that's the challenge. I don't know that is a great fit. I don't necessarily love that one for them.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the number one seed currently in the Western Conference. The West still incredibly compact, but the Denver Nuggets looking for bench help makes sense when you've got we know that with Aaron Gordon, with Nikola Jokic, with Jamal Murray, right, Michael Porter Jr. You've got these pieces in place. They've added KCP, Bruce Brown, right? You've got a pretty solid group of players here that they feel good about. you're not going to be looking to do anything major out there in the trade market. Instead, you're going to be looking to just do things that can enhance what you've already got. So the Nuggets looking for bench help makes a lot of sense in that regard. Is there anything in particular, you just saw this team, is there anything in particular that you think they should be looking for in terms of bench help, scoring, rebounding, defense, what position? What do you think?
Yeah, I think they could use another forward, just to have someone else in the mix, like a forward center type.
Mm-hmm.
They don't seem super sold. I've been beating the drum about playing Zeke Naji all season long, and they just don't necessarily seem sold that he's gonna be in that rotation. Jeff Green will be back, and he's just the ageless wonder at this point. He just is just consistently fine for
Mm-hmm.
them. Their challenge, much like Cleveland, though, is who are you trading to go get it, right? Because then it becomes, all right, you're putting your kids kind of together. You're Christian Brown,
Bones Highland.
Yeah, and I think they need him because
I do
Jamal
too.
Murray,
Yeah.
right? So that becomes tricky. Like I wouldn't think him, but yeah, you put in like Braun and Najee and Peyton Watson, like that gets you, you're up around, I don't know, probably 7-8 million. Then you could throw Ish Smith in there, but the problem is making a 4-for-1 deal is really challenging at this time of year with another team. My guess is they're not going to move Caldwell Pope. That would make a ton of sense. He seems to be a really good fit there, and they signed him to that extension earlier this year. So yeah, he's doing really well for them. Bruce Brown obviously not going to be on the table. So that's the challenges. My guess is this is, again, let's get closer in. We get in the trade deadline week. It's, hey, wow, somebody's available that makes 10 million. Not saying Jay Crowder's the guy for them, but someone who makes Jay Crowder-ish money, 10 million. Yeah, we can get there with a couple contracts, and that's how they go about filling the spot. I don't know that we see it turn into, let's move. Plus, the other thing we got to remember, this team's 10 million over the luxury tax.
Yeah.
I don't know how far that ownership group's ever been super willing to go. They should be, because you're close, right? You could be the team representing the West in the finals, and I think you've got a really great shot at it. But that's, I don't know how, if are they willing to add 10 more million in payroll. That's a pretty big add.
A name that might be kind of interesting. It's in the right pay range and all that. And I don't know, it's not super exciting, but in terms of 10, 15 minutes a night, depending on what the Raptors decide to do. What about Thad Young?
Yeah, he could be a guy who would fit. Yeah, and that's a guy they could go get, right? Because he makes about 8 million, and yeah, that's a good one. I kind of like that idea. And Toronto's going to do something. They're not going to keep rolling this out night after night with this. And what a weird roster it is. And I want to talk about where we spend the top of the show talking about how everybody has a million guards. Toronto doesn't have any. It's all wings and forwards, and like it's just kind of a mess there for the Raptors roster construction wise. And I feel like whether it's trade deadline, that'll probably be trade deadline to me is going to be the start of it for Toronto. But then when we get into the summer, I think we're going to see major moves happening with the Raptors. I just feel like it's time. They've kind of taken this group as far as they're going to go. I know Scotty Barnes is only in year 2, but the rest of those guys have been around there for a little while now.
Yeah. Agreed. All right. Nate McMillan, considering resigning to no, now he's staying to who knows what the heck is going on in Atlanta. Sean Stroney had the report last week that Nate McMillan was considering resigning, but then in the report, he said, well, but he's not. This was kind of a mess my, it's like he thought about it, but then he's not going to. And okay, I don't know what the point of it all was, other than just to kind of highlight, I guess, that things have been pretty tumultuous in Atlanta. What did you think about the whole thing? I was reading that report, I just kind of shaking my head like, yikes, what was the point of this?
Yeah, I was in the same place as you, where I was really like, what is going on here? Like, he is or isn't. And then obviously he and his press conference later, I think it was the same day or the next day, but whenever it was, he came out and was like, I've never even talked to that reporter. Like, I don't know where any of this came from. Like, I'm not doing any of these things. But then he did say, like, man, I would talk to my family and all this. So that seems like, wait, like that wasn't a super, like, no, not happening. Like, you're nuts. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm very kind of confused by the whole thing too. I'm not entirely sure, how this all reconciles. And my guess is why would he resign? Like, that doesn't make a ton of sense to me. And my guess is he just rides it out, or the Hawks make the change themselves. And obviously, they're making moves. Travis Schlenk, they what stepped down, reassigned, whatever it
Mhm.
was in the organization. Landry Fields is running the show now. They lost a couple other front office executives during that transition as well, guys that have been around a while and are pretty well respected. So definitely transition coming for the Hawks for sure. But my guess is Nate McMillan's not the coach next year. I just don't know that he's not the coach the rest of this year.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too, right? You've got now Landry Fields calling the shots there. Usually,
Yep.
whoever comes in, they want to bring in their own
Yep.
coach. So it wouldn't surprise me if Nate McMillan feels kind of like like a lame duck, dead man walking, whatever you want to call it. But that said, it would be surprising if he just said, "Well, I'm just going to pull the trigger now rather than wait until the end of the season." No, finish out the
Mm-hmm.
season, see what you could. You never know.
Yep.
I mean, look, he kind of got hung on to this Hawks job when they surprisingly exceeded expectations. So you
Yep.
never know what can happen. I would be surprised if he just walked away and didn't at least give it a shot. There's still a lot of talent on this team. I know, DeJounte Murray hasn't really fixed what's ailed them, and ironically, some of what probably would help would be the things that Kevin Herter is doing in Sacramento right now. But
Sure.
nonetheless, I think that it's still probably worth sticking out and just seeing what happens, and then go from there. I don't think it helps anything from McMillan's perspective if he just walks at this point.
No, and I think the reality with the Hawks is they're disappointing. They're 17 and 19. They're not playing well right now. But you're like, not saying I expect this to happen, but you're like 2 really good weeks of basketball away from. Now all of a sudden you're up above 500. Everything's feeling pretty good, and you're moving into the middle of the season feeling much better about yourself. So, and they've got the talent there, like you said, to pull that off. So I don't necessarily expect it. I think they're probably going to continue to be this right around 500, maybe
Mhm.
slightly below group, but it wouldn't shock me if, we talk 2 weeks from now and they're on like a 6 game win streak or something like that. That wouldn't be too surprising.
This is a topic for a future show because it's way more in depth than we have time to get into right now. But we should go back and retroactively look at the Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, and
Oh,
DeJounte
yeah.
Murray trades,
Yeah.
and
Without a
take a
doubt.
look at those.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's do that. We'll put that on the day where it's a light news day, and we
Yeah,
can, we'll go back and look at all the big off-season moves and kind of regrade them all or
yeah.
whatever we want to do now. Yeah. That's a great idea.
All right, let's jump over to my team in LA. Anthony Davis spoke to reporters the other day. In fact, it was before the Lakers took on the Hawks, about his recovery process, and essentially said that he finally revealed. Everybody's been in the dark. He's been to multiple doctors, and everybody's been saying, "What exactly is the injury? What's going on here?" And nobody could tell from the play. It wasn't like, oh, clearly he rolled his ankle or anything. It was just this huge mystery. Nobody knew what was going on. He said that there's a fracture in his foot, and he had a bone spur that was putting pressure on the navicular bone and created a stress reaction there. And essentially, it sounded like it was the kind of thing that had been there for some time, for a long period of time, and just never became an issue. It wasn't anything that he would have ever noticed, wasn't anything he was feeling, and then just suddenly it became a problem on that one particular play. Just one of those kind of fluke things. But he did say that he's recovering well. His pain is now down to a 2 out of 10, trending towards a 1, which that's what they were hoping for. They were hoping that it could heal on its own and not require surgery. Sounds like that's the way this is progressing. And then he should be getting scans. It could be happening right now, getting new scans anytime now. And then they'll go from there in terms of, does he step back on the floor? He said he's already doing all of his weight room stuff. The question then becomes, at what point does he actually, get back onto the basketball floor? But hopefully that's sooner rather than later.
Yeah, my only worries whenever it's one of these almost repetitive use type
Yeah,
injuries is, does he play 2 weeks and then it's hurting again and then he
flares
needs
up
to
again.
miss
Yeah.
time? Like that's the issue. And I'm not saying he should shut it down and have surgery, and surgery may not even be the right answer here. And it might be one of those things where, hey, this is kind of how it is for a while. It might be one of those where it's going to be one of those things where I play 2 weeks and then I miss a week and then I'm back in the lineup, but we'll see where it goes. It's just unfortunate because he was playing so well.
Mhm.
And I think record wise, it's unfortunate too because it's pretty clear they don't have much of a chance to be a very good team without him. So it's kind of turning into where do we go with this? And that's where you have to be really careful with your player, and especially Anthony Davis, who the Lakers have a long-term investment in. You don't want to push him back to win 5 more games than you might have otherwise and still miss out on the playoffs. Like there's no win there. Like that's
Right.
not enough upside. And I get it. They have no incentive to lose games either, but they at this point his health needs to take priority over anything else right now. You're not competing for the 1 seed in a championship.
Yeah, and I do wonder how much of this. Yeah, this was supposed to be a season for AD to prove that he could be that 1A guy that could really take the reins, and he did that when he was on the
Mm-hmm.
floor. But that was the other big question mark: was can he stay on the floor? And now that answer is no, I do wonder what that means for the future decision making of the team going forward here. But again, that's also discussions they'll have to have this summer. I don't see them doing anything super drastic in terms of a trade or anything like that. At least not with Anthony Davis by the trade deadline here in February.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people ask. One, let's just cover it right now. LeBron can't be traded, so it doesn't
Correct.
matter. I don't. It really is starting to get super aggravating that people who should know better keep bringing this up. Is what if he asks for a trade? They got to look at it before the trade deadline.
I've seen that
It
a lot
doesn't
too.
matter. He can't be traded this season. It's after the trade deadline for LeBron. So yeah, you can ask for a trade today, and it'll be all right. Well, we'll work on it over the summertime.
Yep.
But Anthony Davis, they're not going to trade him by the trade deadline. Now,
Nope.
I do wonder, is there a world where the Lakers get to this summer and say, where are we at? Kind of sit down with their two big stars and really look at things and what is the plan here? Short term, long term, what are our goals? And maybe everything looks completely different. There's a world where that exists, but that's months off, and we talk about that later.
Yeah. Yep. Those are conversations for June and July.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's finish on a positive here. Gary Payton II making
Yeah.
his season debut. Had a great season last year with the Warriors, won a championship. Now he's in Portland and finally gets to get on the floor. Has been dealing with a core injury and surgery, and now finally gets out there. And that's great to see. Great way to start off 2023 with a player who has grit and grinded his way into the NBA, had to fight in order to get to where he's at now, and got that big contract, and now gets to step out on the floor and show Portland what he can do. So I'm excited for this.
Yeah, he's really going to be able to help that team too because they need another guy who can hold his own defensively in that rotation. They're again, they're hanging in there, right? They're 500, just above 500, right around that mark all year. But in the Western Conference, that keeps them within a couple games of home court advantage right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, Portland's got a chance here. They just need to get their guys on the floor and keep them on the floor. I'll add one too, just because I completely forgot about when we're running through. Jonathan Isaac, full go in practice
Oh my.
today for the Magic. So probably soon we're going to see him. Jalen Suggs as well, a full participant in practice. So I think we're getting really close on the Magic starting to get their full complement of players back. At least well, let's see it for a month at least. Like what does it look like with this whole group together? Because that's what it's about for them. They won on that nice little run and won a bunch of games, but now they've lost a few in a row and they've dipped back. So now it's really back to all right. This is about what pieces fit together. How do we get our young kids developing more than anything else?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. See what they can do, and hopefully he gets back out there as well. And we get. It's always good when you get players back out on the floor
Mm-hmm.
and healthy, particularly when Jonathan Isaac. My goodness, it's been what 2 years now.
Since the bubble.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he got hurt in the bubble. So yeah,
Crazy.
over almost 2.5 by the time we finally see him play a game again.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, hopefully he's able to get back out there and stay out on the floor. Let's get these guys healthy and keep them that way. But thanks everybody for joining us. Welcome to 2023. Hopefully there are good times ahead, good fortunes, and of course, excellent basketball around the NBA. Make sure you guys are subscribing right here to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. And don't forget to follow us over on the podcast side as well on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.